Welcome back to the Wildly Capable Show. We are in part 4 of our mini motherhood series. Today, we're going to be talking about the things I would tell my younger self as a mom. My oldest is 14, so I've had, a little over a decade to kind of think through things I would do differently. And I've also sort of changed perspective, like I mentioned last week, on things I've done with each kid. So I've compiled a list of things I would tell my younger self. This is for anyone who doesn't have kids yet, is dreaming about that potential one day. Maybe you have a couple kids, but you want to add more. This is for anyone who just is curious from a perspective of someone in my point in the journey. And hopefully it's helpful to you. Not saying I have everything figured out. I absolutely do not. But there are specific things that I think ring true now that I have looked back on my motherhood journey so far. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and visual content is more your thing, hop over to YouTube. We are right there. I am currently in our podcast studio, and you can come hang out there, comment in the comment section if you have questions or you want to ask the community anything. You can also like and share the video on YouTube. I apologize for the wet hair. I just am freshly showered. Had to get clean. And I'm a mom. So that is the reality of recording a podcast with freshly showered hair. So let's dive right into it. Things I would tell my younger self as a mom. Number 1, okay, question everything. And that's going to sound dramatic. But here's what I mean. Question everything. The moment you have a positive pregnancy test, it's almost as if you are hopping into a roller coaster ride. They are bringing that bar over your lap and securing it, and you are going on a journey that is already carved out for you. Like it's just a standard of care. It's just this is how we do things. And there's not really a whole lot of welcoming in terms of asking why, or is this the best option, or are there other options, right? Because in our standard American medical system, we've found a way that optimizes in quotations, maternal outcomes and also child outcomes. You could argue all day about where we really fall in in terms of global outcomes for health of mom and baby. But we think we've got it figured out, right? Like the mainstream medical system is so confident in the current birth thing that you really hop into a ride. And for my advice for any mom who is expecting or plans to someday, question everything, not from a position of doubting or disrespect, but just out of pure curiosity. And I'll give you an example. When I had my second daughter, we found out later on that she was breech. So she was feet first instead of head first. And that immediately opened the conversation for, well, you're going to have a C-section because there's no doctor in the city that would ever deliver a breech baby. You would never deliver a feet first baby. Later, I find out years down the road that there is, in fact, a practitioner who happily delivers breech babies, and it's actually not that uncommon. And the blanket statement of if you have a breech baby, then you have a C-section isn't really fair to the mom. It doesn't really tell her that she has other options, but I didn't question it, okay? There are many other examples I could give you of times in early on in my motherhood journey where it was an if-then statement. If you blank, then blank. And like I said, there's not a lot of welcoming of conversation. And then this forces you to sort of step outside of that matrix, that modern American mainstream medical matrix. That was a lot of M's. It forces you to step out of that and enter into a new paradigm where everything is questioned. And that gets really uncomfortable because you almost feel shaky, like there's no foundation for you. You're like, what do you mean I could have a free birth? What do you mean I have a midwife come to my house? What do you mean I birth my baby underwater in a pool in my living room? What do you mean like I don't circumcise? Or what do you mean I don't vaccinate, or I do vaccinate, or I go on a different schedule, or I do this instead of that? What do you mean? That can be really uncomfortable. Okay. And I'm not advocating for any of the things I just said. I'm just saying there are other options. Women do this a million different ways all the time, and no one really talks about it. You hop into your roller coaster ride. They put that bar, they lock you in. When I say they, I just mean society, right? It's no one particular person's fault, except as moms, we can really take ownership over this decision. It's really cool. It's really cool and empowering to take ownership over that decision, but it's not a light burden to carry. It's very heavy. So many, many times have I found joy and comfort and a very positive outcome when I've questioned things. And if you've listened to the show before, you know this, but if you're new here, I've had a wide variety of birth experiences. I had a hospital birth with an epidural. I had a C-section because my baby was breech. I had a VBAC at home in the middle of COVID, a home birth. And then I had a second home birth with my fourth child. So I've done a lot of things. And I can tell you every time, I never regret asking the question. Even if the outcome is the same, even if I still go with the first point offered to me, I want to know more. I want to dig in. I want to ask questions. The best way to do that, because I know I'm going to get tons of don't trust the mom blogs and my medical degree is better than your Google search. The best way to ask questions is one, find a practitioner who's open to a conversation, not one who you ask a question and they shut you down immediately. That's not a conversation. Find a practitioner who's open to it. Personally, for me, that was my home birth midwife. She was incredibly knowledgeable and skilled and could answer the questions. And if she didn't know, she'd point me to someone who did. She would ask the question to someone, an expert in her field, and get back to me on stuff. Okay, you have to have someone who's willing to have a discourse with you. Find a practitioner who you can talk to. Read books. I said this prior, but read books, because books are, not only do they list a million other ways where you can cite that same information, like the reference page of a book is so valuable, but also that author has taken time to weave in so many different veins of expertise into their statement. And so you're really getting like a compiled whole thought that has been tested and gone through a publisher, and it can just be really useful. Books versus a random blog, right, online is a little more credible. There's also a lot of really great introductory advice found on the internet. Sorry, I'm going to say it. A lot of blogs, a lot of those mom blogs that they all say to ignore, or social media posts, can be a good launching pad. I will say it could be a good launching pad for your search, for your research. So I'm not saying stop there. Don't be like, I saw this on Instagram, so this is what we're doing. Don't do that. But you can say, that's an interesting thing. I never even thought to question that. Like, what do you mean? People question that? People opt out of that? Interesting. And then you go read more and research. I have a list of my favorite books, I believe, on my website, homegrowneducation.org. And I will find that link and put that in the show notes, because I know that's going to be the next question of like which books specifically for pregnancy and birth and all of those things to question. And then this continues even beyond, right, the pivotal time period where you're pregnant and delivering your baby. This continues on into your child's life. Question the status quo, because there's very much a roadmap in American parenting of like, this is what you do and this is how we handle it and these are the phrases we say. And I just always find it useful to say, interesting, cool, is there another perspective? And again, not out of disrespect, not out of doubt, and never in a way that makes someone else who chose something different than you feel bad. Never am I advocating for that. But for your own family, I think it's really powerful to question everything. Number 2, something I would tell my younger self is that the little things matter, okay? Think about when you are pregnant and everything that you're doing in that 9-10 months of pregnancy is building the foundation for your child's life. That sounds dramatic maybe, especially if you're like, I'm so sick and I can barely eat. Don't tell me that. There are seasons of your pregnancy where it's pure survival mode. That's usually the first 12 to 14 weeks. Then you get into this sweet spot where you can kind of tolerate a little bit more. Maybe you can actually take your prenatal because you're not feeling so nauseous. Maybe you can get in some of those good pregnancy foods that you know you need to get into. You can do those things later on. But everything you do in those first 9 to 10 months, and then everything you do when your baby's like in their first year, is really laying a foundation. So think about this like you're building a house, and you put so much attention to when you break ground. You want to make sure that it's draining properly and it's level, and you're not on shaky like gravel or sand, and you have a firm foundation, okay? And we can often think that sometimes when they're little, it's like, oh, things don't really matter. They'll grow out of it. I would say every decision you make, they grow into it. So if you make those little decisions along the way, they're going to grow into a baby who's perhaps a little more calm, a little more regulated, a little more jolly, a little more resilient to change. These, you can make little decisions and you can work really, really hard in the beginning so that your baby can grow into this child that you now can reap the benefits of. Honestly, I've seen this in my own kids where I made really intentional decisions in the very beginning, and I saw the outcomes of that years later. So with one of my daughters, we were so intentional about the first foods that she got. And I feel like it set up her palate and her gut microbiome and her whole body system to be able to eat whatever she wants, to really crave the good nutrient dense foods for her. We started her on egg yolk and butter and liver pate that I was making. And when she turned 1, she switched right over to all the nutrient dense foods. And she to this day is the daughter who's like, hey, can I have a fried egg in the morning? I need some protein. I would love to have some sausage. She'll eat liverwurst like it's nothing. Okay, so I saw that play out versus other kids that I didn't have that same intention with, and now we have areas where we have improvement later on. So everything that you think, oh, they'll grow out of it, take that thought out of your head and think, what are they actually growing into as a result of this? Another great example is like the big conversation today is lip and tongue tie release or revisions and oral airway structure, right? This is a huge mountain of research and it takes so much time to dig through, and there's so many conflicting pieces of advice. We have a whole podcast episode with my personal OT that we did on the show that is so jam-packed with information. But I feel like for my kiddos that I tackled that issue with, they grew into a better version of themselves because they had a wider airway. They weren't restricted with their tongue. Their palate can expand. And I do feel like those little decisions matter. So the little things matter. This continues on past baby phase. This goes into early elementary and middle school and high school. But the little things really do matter. You are laying a foundation. Number 3, your life does not stop when you have kids. I love talking to people who are on the fence about having kids because I was someone thrust into parenthood at a very young age. I don't know what it's like to live in the adult world without a child. I had my first at 18, and I think that the perception that your life stops when you have kids is not the full picture, okay? I think that you can do so many beautiful things while growing your family. You just do it maybe in a different way. And also, the seasons of your life are way more predominant. Okay, so when you have kids and you continue your life and you still do things, for example, maybe you're a parent who, we had kids, but we still love to host our friends and we have everyone over and we do Friday night game nights and our kids just stay up a little later, or we dip out for 20-30 minutes to put the kids to bed while they play a game without us. You make it work. Maybe you're a family who loves to travel and traveling with kids is like your jam and you make it work. There are seasons of your life that become a lot more indicative of what you're able and wanting to do. So for example, Joey and I are not big travelers when we have little kids. It's just not as enjoyable for us. But we love to have people over. We love to host. We love to go places and hang out at other people's houses. And we don't mind that our kids are off their schedule a little bit. We don't mind that our kids are, maybe having a movie night while we have adults over and we can chit chat in the living room. There are seasons to your life. I don't attempt certain things when my babies are newborns. I don't expect anything from my social schedule when my kids are 6 months and under, honestly. I even think it's kind of hard to go for a walk with a friend when your baby's not used to being pushed in a stroller. I remember that with Bellman recently. Like, I couldn't really go for walks with friends until my baby was closer to 6 months old. And so I recognized that as a season. I didn't panic. I don't go into that with dread, but I say this is my season, but my life doesn't stop. Okay, Joey and I have had kids For the last 14 years, we've had a kid about every 4 to 5 years. So we kind of start the whole cycle over. And through that, we've done so much stuff. We have taken vacations, we have traveled, although not a lot. But we have built like just a beautiful home in terms of like what it does for us. We didn't physically build our home, but we've turned it into something we love. We've hosted countless events at our house. We used to host friends over when our kids were really little, like on a weekend, like a every weekend basis. So we were definitely the hosting house. We have, started podcasts and we've done fun, cool trips. Joey's gone moose hunting and he has lots of hobbies. And I've been able to dig into my passions and write books about stuff that I love. And I've done that all in the season of having kids. So kids don't stop your life, they enrich it. They, as I said last week, they increase your capacity for life. You are able to do so much more than you ever thought you would be able to do without kids. You can do so much more with kids. Sorry if that was confusing, than you ever thought possible. And yeah, you're going to have different seasons of your life. Now, here's my one caveat to that. I don't want you to enter into a season from a negative viewpoint and say, well, we have a really fussy baby and this is our season. I think that is where you can go back to lesson number 2, which is the little things matter, and lesson number 1, and really dig into questioning why your baby is a little fussier. Do they need some nervous system regulation? Is it something in their feeding or their food? Is it something with their airway? Is it a sleep related issue? Is there something in your house that's an irritant to them that they can't communicate that to you yet? Is there something in your own self as mom that you're carrying around, maybe like a really anxious spirit, and it's sort of like impacting how you're dealing with your kids, or an anxious energy, right? All of these things can be questioned and considered. And I would encourage you, it's okay to have your season be like, you know what, we have this medical situation going on, totally fair. But don't use your season as an excuse for things being less ideal than they could be. My mouth literally just dropped wide open when I saw what the competitor is selling this product for. You guys, by now, everyone knows that colostrum, nature's first food, is so potent and such a healing, amazing supplement you can add to your regimen. Colostrum is used for so many things, including immunity boosting and gut healing. You can use it for post-workout muscle recovery. So many ways to implement this amazing product. And what if I told you that you could buy it for $60 less than the leading brands and not compromise on quality? Ancestral Supplements grass-fed colostrum, I'm going to read you right off their label. 100% grass-fed colostrum, free from added hormones, pesticides, or GMOs, absolutely zero fillers. And they have a calf first commitment, which means they only take the excess colostrum after those sweet little baby calves have been properly fed, meaning they care for the animals that we are sourcing this incredible product from. And it's also top-notch quality because all of their products are third-party lab tested for purity. You guys, $60 off the leading brand is insane. Ancestral Supplements has the most affordable colostrum with the highest quality. They do not compromise, but they're also not out to just make a buck on their branding. So go check ancestralsupplements.com/homegrown to see the exact tub of colostrum that I take for all of the things: immunity, athletic recovery, gut healing, everything. You can add it to your cold drinks, your smoothies, throw it in your chocolate milk for your kids, whatever you can do to get it into your system. It's going to benefit your life so much, and it's going to save you money when you choose Ancestral Supplements. Also, you can use the code Homegrown at checkout for an extra 15% off. So it's a win-win. Since it's starting to finally actually feel like fall here in Ohio, I am drinking more tea than ever. My 2 favorite teas that I love for fall are our chai that we sell over at Haselmayer Goods. It is an organic fair trade chai with the most unbelievable flavor. It's bold, it's spicy, it's sweet, but it's not overpowering. I feel like so often when I would make chai that I would buy off of the shelf of the store, it would be so dull. I'd have to put like 5 tea bags in 1 cup to even have any flavor after I added my milk and sugar. Our chai is different. It's truly the best chai I've ever had. I also love a good matcha still. I don't know if that's a summer drink, you guys. I don't care. I'm really into it. Matcha, I was like such a late bloomer when it comes to joining the matcha crowd. I had to find the right one, and I had to find one that was ceremonial grade, organic, and I actually liked the flavor. And then from there, I tinker with it. We almost use it as like a craft cocktail type of thing where we're adding different flavors and sweeteners. So those two I am adding to my fall beverage menu. I love them, and all of our teas that we source over at shoptheh.com are the highest quality. They are organic, they are fair trade or direct trade, because the tea industry, unfortunately, is something that you got to be careful with. I would not be just buying random teas off the shelf at the grocery store. I want high quality. I want them to be honoring the farmer who is growing that product for me, and I want it to taste amazing. And these Haselmayer Goods teas check the box every time. You can go over to shoptheh.com and check out our tea and coffee selection. We also have a number of home goods there, things like our solid lard dish soap, our horsehair dish brushes. We have natural sea sponges for body care. You guys check it out. Everything that we've talked about on the show is in there, and you can use the code Homegrown at checkout for 10% off your order. Okay, number 4. Larger age gaps are really, really beautiful. I don't know anyone else on the internet saying this. Everyone's touting 2 under 2 and how quickly can we get out these babies. And for me as a mom, I just think that does such a great disservice to women who want to have really intentional pregnancy experiences and births. And there is a reality, there is a biological reality that our body needs some time to heal. It needs time to replenish everything that we just gave to the last child. It needs time to like literally heal. It needs time to build back strength and build up our nutrient store so that we can give our next subsequent kids the same advantage we gave our previous. I am such a fan of larger age gaps, not only because physically is it better for mom and baby 100%, and if that bothers you, go look at the research done by Kate Shanahan in her book Deep Nutrition. She talks a ton about child spacing and ideal time between pregnancies. I think she says about 2 years, 2.5 years. But also, I think just for your own mental and emotional capacity, when you have kids a little further spaced apart, you're dealing with different challenges with each child. There's no real lumping in of age groups necessarily, which can seem like a disadvantage, but it's actually, for me, it gives me more clarity because I have kids in very distinct stages of the game. And by the time I had my next kid, my previous kid's already 4 or 5. So they're independent. They are potty trained. We have reached certain milestones at that point where it makes my mothering to both children a little bit easier. And I've also seen, especially when your kids are at home all day with each other, or you have a lot of built-in family time, that 4-year age gap doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to be friends. I was just talking to someone last night who, her and her sisters are all 4 years apart, and she's actually even closer with the one that's 8 years apart from her. So she's the youngest, and her oldest sister, they're very, very close as adults. And so I just think that, yeah, there's going to be some seasons of life where they seem really separated, and that can feel a little exhausting as the parent to kind of constantly be going between teenage and baby and middle school and all the different nuance that's involved with kids having different needs. But I also think that it's really beautiful, and it allows you to not only appreciate your younger kids better when you have older kids too, but I also think it gives your body and your mind time to heal and rest and really be able to think about your family in a different way. So I can't speak personally to smaller age gaps. So this one's very biased, I will admit. I don't have anyone closer than 4 years. But I will say, as a mom who has larger age gaps, I think it's really, really beautiful. Number 5 is specific to daughters. This might be true for sons as well, but I don't know. I've never walked that. Build into your pre-teen girls. I got this advice from one of Joey's aunts, and I've clung to it because she told me, The years of 9 to 11 are so pivotal. We always think like once our daughter turns 13, that's when it's really time to like get intentional and focus and gear up for maybe a battle, right? Teenage daughters, we're also scared of teenage daughters. But the advice I was given was if you pour into the ages of 9 years old to 11 years old, when they're really in that preteen, exploratory, kind of teetering back and forth between I'm a little kid, but also I want to learn about the world and I want to have experiences and I want to form my own opinions, then that makes the later years so much richer because you've laid a foundation of one, I'm trustworthy. You can ask me questions. We can talk about things. We can experience life together. Two, I'm interested in you. I want to have a relationship with you. And I think that you're going to be a beautiful human growing up. And three, it gives them a clear runway of, okay, my mom is starting to treat me a little differently, maybe a little more adult, maybe a little more mature. And so you'll see them kind of rise to that occasion. The ways I have seen that with my two older daughters is the intentional time I spend with them turns into a richer relationship, obviously, because we're chit-chatting and we're getting to know each other better. I'm asking questions. I'm learning their interests. We're joking. We're laughing. But also, I've seen when I sort of treat them with a slightly different attitude, like they are a little bit more mature, or I'm like laughing, or I'm asking questions, or maybe we're watching a show together and there's some content in the show that's a little like, coming of age or what it's like to be a teen or a preteen, then they start to embody that a little bit, and not in a negative way. So far, what I've seen is it's actually very positive, and it kind of flips a switch for them. Like, okay, I'm becoming something new. I'm not my 5-year-old self or my 7-year-old self. I'm becoming something a little different. I have a little different interests. I'm maybe asking different questions. So I really believe that 9 to 11 years of age, specifically with daughters, is so important and helpful if you pour into that. Take them out to coffee, watch the TV show with them so you can have conversations about what they're viewing. Take them out to shopping or go thrifting or go to an art class or paint pottery, whatever you have to do to get involved with them and just spend some one-on-one time with them. Like I said, for boys, it might be the same. The ages might be a little different. That's my advice for daughters. And my last point, my last thing I would tell my younger self is specifically for teenagers. And I'm early in this game, okay? I will admit my oldest is only 14, but I will say from my remembering of being a teenager, this one seems to be really impactful for me. Do not create a power struggle. Do not create a power struggle with your teenager. This has been so eye-opening to me. I saw it when I first saw those initial signs of kind of a mom and daughter power struggle with me and my oldest. And I remember how it felt being her. And I remember what my mom did in response. And I tried to honestly take a little bit of an opposite approach. And I have found that not creating the power struggle, meaning if your daughter snaps at you, you don't snap back. You don't immediately discuss it. You don't address it in a firm way right then and there. You can actually diffuse the situation much faster. And then there is almost always a resolution a few minutes or hours later. And I'm not just taking this from my own experience. I'm actually going to borrow a concept from one of our favorite podcasters and authors. His name is Jocko Willink, and he is a former Navy SEAL and talks just a lot about leadership specifically. And I think one of his main principles is really applicable to parenting. And he has this thing where he talks about the indirect approach. And basically, Jocko's point is saying that if there's an indirect way to get your point across with somebody, specifically in his example, it's either in a military setting or in a corporate setting, there's an indirect approach to get your point across. That's usually a better way than directly addressing them. Because what happens is when you are directly addressing someone, like you're commanding them, like you are telling them, hey, go do this, don't do that, you are spending what he calls leadership capital. So if you think about all the different capitals in your life, you can have financial capital, which just means like cash in the bank, you're ready to spend it. You can have like health capital, like I have a healthy, robust immune system and I'm strong and I have muscle mass and if I get sick, I'm going to spend a little bit of my health capital, but I can recoup it. You can have relationship capital by investing in your network and building relationships with people and having a community that really supports you and you support them. So leadership capital is very similar to where it's something you can put deposits in the bank account or you can withdraw. And obviously, with your teenager, you want to have as much leadership capital as possible. Like you want to be their main influence, the person that they are learning the most from at all times. And that can be really hard because teenagers are faced with a lot of influence, whether it's their teacher at school or their peer group or something they're seeing online. It's just influences everywhere for teens. And so, as a parent, you want to have as much leadership capital as possible, which means you don't want to spend that capital if you can do anything about it. And this can sound so countercultural. Like, what do you mean you wouldn't tell your teenager directly not to do X, Y, Z? I think we have this idea where when they're kids, we can be a little more gentle and we can say, oh, is that a good idea? Maybe we shouldn't do that. And I actually have found that when I flip flop that, and I'm more direct with my younger kids. I give them really specific details like do not hit your sister, do not do that, don't put that in your mouth. Then as they get older, the question isn't that now, don't wear that shirt to school. It's, is that a good shirt to wear to school? Do you think you might get dress coded? What do you think? You ask a question. The indirect approach, according to Jocko, is something where you are not commanding or telling them directly. You are leading them to the conclusion on their own. You're probing. You're asking questions to them. You're asking specific questions to them. You want to open a conversation, and not in a condescending way, but in a genuinely curious, safe way. Hey, is that a good outfit to wear, or do you think you might get dress coded? Oh yeah, I should probably go change. Yeah, I should do that. Hey, do you think tonight is the best night to go hang out with your friends? Because we have XYZ going on, and do you think that we can reschedule perhaps? Yeah, maybe we can. I'm not really even sure I want to go to that thing. Okay, great. If they pull something out of the fridge and they start eating some lunch, do you think that's enough food for you? Did you get any protein in, or do you need some help finding some protein sources to eat? Oh, I had some chicken earlier that I finished up from the other day. Oh, okay, great. Instead of saying, don't eat that, you need to eat chicken. What are you doing? Don't eat that. Or I'm not taking you to that event tonight. I can't drive you. Don't even ask me, right? There's just a difference. And you can find Jocko's content and learn more about this. And I'm just simply taking his concept and applying it to a parenting realm. But I've found that time and time again, what this does is diffuses any sort of power struggle, because entering into a power struggle with mother and daughter is almost never a good idea. I have boundaries in place. I have a rule where, like, for example, our daughter knows that if she gets dress coded at school, she loses access to her iPad for like a week, right? So when I'm asking her, hey, do you think that's a good shirt to wear? Do you think you might get dress coded? I'm letting her make that decision. She knows the repercussions. She knows, like, if I get dress coded, I'm toast for a week. I'm grounded. I can't talk to any of my friends. So having that boundary in place, but also letting her make the decision, I'm not spending my leadership capital. I'm not standing at the bottom of the steps saying, don't you wear that to school, because I don't want to have that relationship with her. I want her to have the maturity to be like, you know what, this isn't worth it to risk my time with my friends. I can find a different shirt that looks a little bit more coverage. Okay. Just an example. So leadership capital is such a great concept. I think it works with kids, with coworkers, with so many people, but I love applying it to teenagers specifically and avoiding a power struggle. So, okay, I think that is everything. Things I would tell my younger self as a mom now with 14 years experience. Like I said, I've still got lots more to learn, but just from my point in the journey, sharing little pieces of what I have learned so far. Hopefully it's helpful for you, and we will see you guys next week.